The bullet whistled past her ear so close that Sophia Winters felt the heat of it. And in that moment, before she dove behind the water trough, she understood with perfect clarity that her father's debts had finally caught up with her in the worst possible way. The dusty streets of Pinos Altos, New Mexico Territory, erupted into chaos as people scattered like tumbleweeds in a storm. Sophia pressed herself against the rough wood of the trough, her heart hammering so hard she thought it might break through her ribs. 3 men stood in the middle of the street, their faces hard and unforgiving beneath the brutal August sun of 1883. She recognized them instantly. They worked for Marcus Dalton, the man who owned half the gambling halls between here and Santa Fe, and they had come to collect what her father had promised before he died 6 months ago. Sophia Winters, the tallest one, called out, his voice carrying across the sudden silence. "Your daddy owed Mr. Dalton $5,000. You can pay in cash or you can pay another way. Either works for us." The implication in his voice made her stomach turn. She had nothing. Her father had drunk and gambled away everything they had, including the small boarding house her mother had left them before consumption took her when Sophia was only 12. At 22 years old, Sophia had spent the last decade watching her father destroy himself and drag her down with him. When he finally died, face down in his own vomit after a 3-day bender, she had felt nothing but a hollow relief. No grief, no sadness, just emptiness. "I do not have it," she shouted back, her voice steadier than she felt. "He is dead. His debts died with him." "That is not how this works," another man said, stepping forward. "You inherited what he had, you inherit what he owed." A gunshot rang out, but not from their direction. All 4 of them, Sophia included, turned toward the sound. A man sat astride a bay horse at the edge of town, a rifle still smoking in his hands. He was tall in the saddle, with dark hair that fell to his collar beneath a worn hat, and eyes that seemed to take in everything at once. "I think the lady said she does not have your money," the man said, his voice calm but carrying a weight that made the 3 debt collectors shift uncomfortably. "And I think it is time you boys moved along." "This is none of your concern, stranger," the tall one said, but his hand had moved away from his gun. "I am making it my concern." The man dismounted with an easy grace, never taking his eyes off the 3 men. As he stepped into the full sunlight, Sophia could see he was younger than she had first thought, maybe 30 at most, with a face that was more honest than handsome, weathered by sun and wind. "I know Marcus Dalton. If he wants to collect from someone, he can come himself instead of sending hired guns to threaten a woman in broad daylight. You know who you are crossing. I know exactly who I am crossing. Now I suggest you get on your horses and ride back to Santa Fe. Tell Dalton that Cole Donovan paid the debt, all $5,000. He can come find me at the Triple D Ranch if he has a problem with that." Sophia felt her breath catch. $5,000 was a fortune. Why would a stranger offer to pay such a sum for someone he had never met? She watched as the 3 men exchanged glances, clearly weighing their options. Cole Donovan kept his hand near his gun, relaxed but ready. Finally, the tall one spat in the dust. "Your funeral, Donovan. We will tell Dalton what you said." They mounted up and rode out, leaving a trail of dust behind them. The townspeople began to emerge from their hiding places, whispering among themselves. Sophia stood up slowly, her legs shaking. She looked at the man who had just claimed to pay her father's enormous debt, trying to understand what kind of game he was playing. Cole Donovan walked toward her, leading his horse. Up close, she could see the lines around his eyes, the old scar above his left eyebrow, the calluses on his hands. These were working hands, ranchers' hands. His eyes were gray, like storm clouds over the mountains, and when he looked at her, she felt exposed in a way that had nothing to do with the torn sleeve of her faded dress or the dust covering her boots. "Are you hurt?" he asked. "No." Her voice came out hoarse. She cleared her throat. "Why did you do that? You do not even know me." Did not seem right, 3 armed men threatening one woman. He said it simply, as if it were the most obvious thing in the world. "Do you have somewhere safe to stay?" Sophia almost laughed, but it would have come out bitter. "I have a room above the saloon. The owner lets me clean in exchange for a place to sleep." She paused, then forced herself to meet his eyes. "You should not have done what you did. I cannot pay you back. I have nothing." "I did not ask you to pay me back." "Then what do you want?" The question came out sharper than she intended, but experience had taught her that no one did anything without expecting something in return. Men do not throw around $5,000 for nothing. What is the price? Something flickered in his eyes, an emotion she could not quite name. It looked almost like sadness. "No price. I have the money to spare and you needed help. That is all there is to it." "That is not how the world works." "Maybe not your world," he said quietly, "but it is how mine does." Before she could respond, he tipped his hat to her and began to turn away. Sophia felt something unfamiliar rise in her chest, something that might have been panic at the thought of him leaving, this stranger who had just upended everything she thought she knew about how people operated. "Wait," she called out. He turned back and she searched for words. I do not understand why you would do this." Cole looked at her for a long moment, and in that look, she felt as though he could see right through her, past all the walls she had built up over years of disappointment and betrayal. "My mother used to say that compassion costs nothing but means everything. I suppose I try to live by that." "Compassion." Sophia repeated the word as if it were foreign. In her experience, compassion was something that existed in stories and sermons, not in real life. Real life was cold and hard and full of people who took whatever they could get. Yes, compassion. Have you never known it? The question was gentle, but it struck her like a physical blow. Had she? Her mother had been kind but exhausted, working herself to death to keep food on the table. Her father had been selfish and cruel, thinking only of his next drink or card game. The people in town looked at her with pity or contempt, seeing only the daughter of a drunk. The men who came to the saloon looked at her with hunger, assuming she was available for the right price. "No," she heard herself say, the confession escaping before she could stop it. "I do not think I have. Not really." Cole's expression softened and he took a step closer. "Then maybe it is time you did. I could use help at my ranch. It is a big spread, and while I have a couple of hands who help with the cattle and horses, I could use someone to help with the house, the cooking, the garden. I would pay fair wages, provide room and board. It would be honest work, nothing more." Sophia stared at him, searching his face for the trap, the catch, the inevitable demand that would come later. But she saw only sincerity, and that frightened her more than any threat. Sincerity meant vulnerability, and vulnerability meant pain. "I do not know you," she said. "That is true. But I know what it is like to need a fresh start. Come out to the ranch tomorrow. Look around. If you do not feel safe or comfortable, I will bring you right back to town. You have my word. The word of a stranger. The word of someone who just kept 3 guns from drawing on you," he pointed out gently. "I understand your suspicion. The world has not given you much reason to trust. But I am offering you a chance, that is all. Take the night to think about it." He told her how to find the Triple D Ranch, which was about 8 miles outside of Pino's Altos, then mounted his horse and rode off before she could formulate another objection. Sophia stood in the street, watching him disappear down the dusty road, feeling as though the ground had shifted beneath her feet. That night, She lay on her thin mattress in the stifling room above the saloon, listening to the sounds of drinking and gambling below, and thought about compassion. She thought about the way Cole Donovan had stepped in without hesitation, how he had not asked for anything in return, how he had looked at her not with pity but with simple human kindness. It was alien to her, this concept of someone doing good without expecting payment. She thought about her life as it was, cleaning up after drunks, dodging wandering hands, eating one meal a day if she was lucky, always looking over her shoulder for the next person her father had wronged. This was survival, not living. And now this stranger had offered her a door to walk through, to something different, something that might be better. But what if it was worse? What if he was lying? What if this was all some elaborate scheme? The questions circled in her mind like vultures, but underneath them was a quiet voice that asked, what if he was telling the truth? By morning, Sophia had made her decision. She had so little to pack that it fit in a single cloth bag. She told the saloon owner she was leaving, ignored his warnings about foolish girls who trusted strange men, and started walking west out of town toward the coordinates Cole had given her. The August heat was already building by the time she had walked 3 miles. Sweat ran down her back, soaking her dress. Her feet ached in her worn boots. She was beginning to think she had made a terrible mistake when she saw a rider approaching from ahead. As he got closer, she recognized Cole on his bay horse. He had a second horse with him, a gentle-looking mare. "Figured you might need a ride," he said as he drew alongside her. "It is a long walk in this heat." Sophia wanted to refuse out of principle, but her aching feet overruled her pride. Cole dismounted and helped her up onto the mare with a steadying hand at her elbow. His touch was brief and respectful, nothing like the grabbing hands she was used to fending off. They rode in silence for a while, and Sophia used the time to study the landscape. The terrain here was rugged and beautiful in a harsh way, with scrub brush and juniper trees dotting the hills, mountains rising in the distance like ancient sentinels. The sky was so blue it almost hurt to look at, and the air smelled of sage and dust, and something indefinably clean that she had never noticed in town. "How long have you had your ranch?" she asked finally, the silence starting to feel heavy. "About 5 years. I came out here from Missouri after the war. Wanted to build something of my own, something clean and honest." He glanced at her. "It has been hard work, but good work. You were in the war for a time. I do not talk about it much. Some things are better left in the past." Sophia understood that sentiment. There were plenty of things in her own past she would rather forget. "Is it just you at the ranch?" "I have 2 hands who help out, Miguel and his son Tomás. Good men, both of them. Miguel has been with me almost from the start. They have a small cabin on the property. Then there is Mrs. Chen. She is an older Chinese woman who sometimes comes to help with things, though her health has not been good lately. Mostly it has been just me rattling around in a house meant for a family." There was a note of loneliness in his voice that surprised her. She had assumed a man who owned a ranch and could afford to pay off $5,000 in debt would want for nothing. But maybe money could not buy everything. Maybe it could not buy companionship or purpose or the warmth of someone to talk to at the end of a long day. The Triple D Ranch came into view as they crested a hill, and Sophia felt her breath catch despite herself. The ranch house was larger than she had expected, built of wood and stone, with a wide porch that wrapped around the front. There were corrals and a barn, a bunkhouse, and several other outbuildings. Everything was neat and well-maintained, speaking to the care of someone who took pride in their work. "It is beautiful," she said, and meant it. Cole smiled, and it transformed his face, making him look younger and less burdened. "Thank you. I have put a lot of myself into this place." He helped her down from the horse, and she noticed again how careful he was not to overstep, his hand steadying her but not lingering. He led her up to the house, and the inside was just as impressive as the outside. The main room was spacious, with a stone fireplace, comfortable furniture, and windows that let in plenty of light. Everything was clean but had a bachelor's touch, functional rather than decorative. "The kitchen is through there," Cole said, pointing. "There are 3 bedrooms upstairs. You would have your own room with a lock on the door. I want you to feel safe here." The fact that he mentioned the lock specifically told Sophia he understood her fears. She looked around, taking it all in. The house felt warm despite the heat outside, like a place where someone could actually build a life instead of just surviving day to day. "What would you expect of me?" she asked, still waiting for the other shoe to drop. "Cooking, cleaning, tending the vegetable garden out back, maybe helping with the chickens. Nothing you have not done before, I imagine. You would have Sunday afternoons off, and I would pay you $30 a month plus room and board." $30 was more than generous. Sophia had been making maybe $5 a month at the saloon, and that was only because the owner took pity on her. With $30, she could start saving, maybe eventually build her own life free and clear of anyone's charity or debt. "Why are you doing this?" she asked again, because she still could not wrap her mind around it. Cole leaned against the doorframe, his gray eyes serious. "Because when I was 19, I was wounded during the war, left for dead on a battlefield in Tennessee. A farmer and his wife found me, took me to their home, nursed me back to health over 3 months. They did not know me, did not owe me anything, but they showed me compassion when I needed it most. They saved my life, and when I was well enough to leave, they would not take a cent for their trouble." He paused, looking out the window at the land he had built into a home. "I asked them why, same as you are asking me now. The farmer said that compassion was not a debt to be repaid but a gift to be passed forward. He said that if I really wanted to thank them, I should show the same kindness to someone else who needed it when my time came. So that is what I try to do." Sophia felt something crack in her chest, some hard shell she had built around herself to keep from feeling too much. "I do not know how to do this," she admitted quietly. "I do not know how to accept kindness without waiting for the other shoe to drop." "Then maybe we can both learn," Cole said gently. "I have been living out here mostly alone for 5 years. I have forgotten how to have another person around, how to share space and conversation. We can figure it out together if you are willing to try." She looked at him, really looked at him, and saw no deception in his face. Just hope and a kind of gentle patience that was utterly foreign to her experience. Making decisions had always been easy when all the options were bad. This was harder because it meant taking a risk on something that might actually be good. "All right," she said finally. "I will try." The smile that broke across Cole's face was like sunrise, warm and full of promise. "Good. I am glad. Let me show you to your room and then we can have some lunch. You must be hungry after that walk." He led her upstairs to a room at the end of the hall. It was simple but comfortable, with a real bed covered in a handmade quilt, a dresser, a washstand with a basin and pitcher, and a window that looked out over the mountains. Sophia set down her small bag and touched the quilt, her fingers tracing the careful stitches. "My mother made that," Cole said from the doorway. "Before she passed, I want you to have it. I cannot take something so personal. She would want it used. She always said useful things should be used, not locked away gathering dust." He pointed to the door. "Lock works well. You have my word that I will never enter this room without your permission." After he left, Sophia sat on the bed and looked around the room that was now hers. Hers. When was the last time she had owned anything beyond the clothes on her back and a few meager possessions? The bed was soft, the room was clean and bright, and for the first time in longer than she could remember, she felt something that might have been hope. The first few days at the Triple D Ranch passed in a strange blur of newness. Sophia woke each morning to sunlight streaming through her window and the sound of birds rather than drunken shouting. She came downstairs to find Cole already up, usually coming in from early morning chores with Miguel and Tomás, both of whom greeted her with polite respect and nothing more. Cole was true to his word about everything. He never entered her room, never made any demands beyond the work they had agreed upon, never looked at her with anything other than friendly regard. He was patient when she burned the biscuits the first morning, just eating them without complaint and saying he had eaten worse on the trail. He showed her the garden and the chickens, introduced her to the ranch's rhythms and routines. What surprised Sophia most was how he treated everyone around him. Miguel had come north from Mexico 15 years ago with his young son, looking for work and safety. Cole had hired him on the spot and helped him build the cabin where they now lived. Tomás was 20 now, bright and hardworking, and Cole was teaching him to read in the evenings. Mrs. Chen, who did come by on Sophia's third day at the ranch, had an even more remarkable story. She had been married to a Chinese laborer who worked on the railroads, and when he was killed in an accident, the railroad company had left her with nothing. She had been barely surviving when Cole found her nearly starving in Pino's Altos. He had brought her to the ranch, nursed her back to health, and had been helping her ever since. "He is a good man," Mrs. Chen told Sophia in her precise English as they worked together in the garden. "A rare man. You are lucky to be here." "I know," Sophia said, and realized she meant it. But knowing it intellectually and accepting it emotionally were two different things. Sophia kept waiting for Cole to reveal his true motives, to demand something in return for all his kindness. She caught herself watching him suspiciously, analyzing his every word and gesture for hidden meanings. Cole seemed to understand her wariness. He gave her space, never pushing for conversation but always available if she wanted to talk. He asked about her preferences for meals, deferred to her judgment on household matters, and treated her opinions as valuable. It was disorienting. 2 weeks into her time at the ranch, Sophia was in the kitchen making dinner when Cole came in from working with the horses. He was dusty and tired, and he washed up at the basin before sitting at the table with a grateful sigh. "Something smells good," he said, "stew and fresh bread." Sophia had been experimenting with the well-stocked pantry, remembering recipes her mother had taught her long ago. Cooking for someone who appreciated it rather than just shoveling food down while drunk was surprisingly satisfying. "You have a gift for cooking," Cole said. "Everything you make is delicious." Sophia set the bread on the table, then hesitated. "Can I ask you something?" "Of course. That day in town when you paid off my father's debt, you never actually paid it, did you? You just said you did to get those men to leave." Cole looked at her and she saw the truth in his eyes before he spoke. "No, I did not, but I will if Dalton comes calling. I meant what I said. That is $5,000, I know how much it is. And you would actually pay it for me, for someone you barely know." "Yes." The simple certainty in that one word shook her. Sophia sat down across from him, searching his face. "I do not understand you. I have been trying to for 2 weeks, and I just do not understand. Where I come from, people do not do things like this. They take, they use, they throw away. Nobody gives without expecting something back." Cole was quiet for a moment, turning his coffee cup in his hands. "I grew up with a father who was hard, not cruel but hard. He did not believe in showing affection or speaking kindly. Everything was about work and duty and keeping your feelings locked down tight. When I went to war, I saw what that hardness could become. I saw men who had lost every bit of humanity, who could do terrible things without flinching. He looked up at her, and she saw old pain in his eyes. That farmer and his wife, they showed me there was another way to be. That strength did not have to mean hardness. That a man could be tough enough to survive this world and still have compassion in his heart. It changed me, fundamentally, made me want to be better than I was raised to be. But you must want something, Sophia insisted. Everyone wants something. I want to build something good here, Cole said slowly. I want this ranch to be a place where people are treated fairly, where hard work is rewarded, where someone who needs help can find it. I want to live in a way that would make that farmer and his wife proud. And yes, I suppose I want companionship. It gets lonely out here. But that is something that has to be freely given, not demanded or bought. Sophia felt her throat tighten with emotion she could not name. I do not know how to be around someone like you. I do not know the rules. There are no rules, Cole said gently. Just be yourself. That is all I ask. What if myself is not very nice? What if I am hard and suspicious and broken in ways I do not know how to fix? Then you are those things, and that is all right. You do not have to be perfect, Sophia. You just have to be willing to try. The rest will come with time. She wanted to believe him. God, how she wanted to believe him. But belief required trust, and trust was something she had precious little experience with. Still, as they ate dinner together and talked about the ranch and the day's small events, Sophia felt something inside her begin to thaw, like ice under spring sun. The weeks turned into months, and slowly, incrementally, Sophia began to relax. Cole proved himself consistent in his kindness day after day. He brought her wildflowers when he came in from checking the far pastures. He ordered books from Santa Fe that he thought she might enjoy and left them on the kitchen table for her to find. When she mentioned missing music, he rode into town and came back with a fiddle, which he played clumsily but enthusiastically in the evenings, making her laugh despite herself. He taught her to ride better, taking her out on the mare along the property boundaries, showing her the land with obvious pride. He taught her to shoot, saying every woman living in ranch country should know how to protect herself. He never touched her beyond what was necessary for the lessons, always respectful, always careful. But Sophia found herself becoming increasingly aware of him in ways that had nothing to do with suspicion. She noticed the way his eyes crinkled when he smiled, the competent strength in his hands, the sound of his laughter when Tamaz told a joke at dinner. She noticed how he always served her first at meals, how he asked about her day as if he genuinely cared about the answer, how he looked at her sometimes like she was something precious rather than damaged. It scared her, these feelings growing in her chest. Affection, attraction, something that might grow into more if she let it. She had never let herself feel these things before because feelings meant vulnerability, and vulnerability meant pain. One evening in early October, when the air had begun to cool and the aspens on the distant mountains were turning gold, Sophia was sitting on the porch watching the sunset when Cole joined her. He had 2 cups of coffee and offered her one as he settled into the chair beside hers. "Beautiful evening," he said. "Yes." They sat in comfortable silence for a while, and Sophia marveled at how comfortable silence with him had become. In the beginning, every quiet moment had felt heavy with unspoken expectations. Now it just felt peaceful. "Can I tell you something?" Sophia asked, surprising herself. "Always. When I first came here, I was convinced you were lying about everything. I thought you had some ulterior motive that would reveal itself eventually. I have been waiting for 4 months for you to show your true colors, to demand payment for all your kindness." She looked at him, this man who had turned her understanding of the world upside down. "But you never have. You have been exactly who you said you were from the very first day." Cole met her eyes. "I am glad you are finally starting to believe that." "I am trying. You have to understand, my whole life has been lessons in disappointment. My mother worked herself to death and still could not get ahead. My father chose drink and gambling over his own daughter every single time. The people in town either ignored me or looked at me like I was trash. And then you showed up and did something impossible." "What is impossible about helping someone who needs help?" "Everything, in my experience." Sophia set down her coffee cup and turned to face him fully. "But you did it anyway. You paid a debt you did not owe, offered me work when I had nothing, treated me with respect and kindness every single day. You have shown me what compassion looks like, and I realized something." "What is that?" "I do not just want to be the recipient of it. I want to learn how to give it. I want to be better than I was. I want to build something good too, the way you are doing." She paused, feeling vulnerable but pushing through it. "I want to be part of what you are building here, not just as an employee, but as a partner in making this place what it should be." Cole's expression softened into something warm and wondering. "You already are part of it, Sophia. You have been since the day you arrived. This place is better with you in it. I am better with you in it. You changed my life," she said quietly. "I need you to know that. Whatever happens, you changed my life, and I will be grateful for that forever." "Whatever happens," Cole repeated. "That sounds like you are planning to leave." "No," Sophia said, and realized the truth as she spoke it. "No, I am not planning to leave. I am planning to stay if you will have me, not just as your housekeeper, but as whatever you need me to be. This is the first place that has ever felt like home." Cole reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away if she wanted, and took her hand in his. His palm was warm and calloused, his grip gentle. "This is your home, for as long as you want it to be. And for the record, what I need you to be is exactly who you are. You do not have to change or improve or become someone else. You are enough just as you are." Sophia felt tears prick her eyes, and she was startled to realize they were not sad tears but something else entirely. Relief, maybe. Happiness. The strange, unfamiliar sensation of being truly seen and accepted. She squeezed his hand, this man who had taught her what compassion looked like, and let herself believe, finally, that she deserved to receive it. They sat on the porch as the sun finished setting and the stars began to emerge, hands intertwined, and Sophia felt something shift between them. The careful distance they had maintained was still there, but it felt different now, less like a barrier and more like a foundation they had built together, strong enough to support whatever might come next. As autumn deepened, and the work of preparing the ranch for winter began in earnest, Sophia found herself settling more fully into life at the Triple D. She had learned the rhythms of the ranch, the patterns of the days and seasons. She knew when to expect Cole in for meals, when Miguel and Tomás would need extra food brought out, when the chickens would be most productive. She had transformed the house from a bachelor's dwelling into something that felt lived in and loved, adding small touches like curtains she sewed herself and wildflowers on the table. But beyond the practical aspects, she had begun to understand the deeper currents of ranch life. She saw how Cole treated everyone with the same respect and fairness, from the newest day laborer to Mrs. Chen when she visited. She watched him doctor a sick calf with the same care he would give a valuable stallion, because to him, every animal under his care mattered. She observed how he dealt with difficulties, meeting challenges with patience and creativity rather than anger or force. One morning in late October, a young woman showed up at the ranch on foot, exhausted and frightened. Her name was Lily, and she had been traveling with a wagon train that had been hit by bandits 2 days north. Most of the men had been killed, and she had run, hiding in the brush until the bandits left, then walking until she found the ranch. Sophia had been in the kitchen when Cole brought her inside, and she saw immediately what needed to be done. Without waiting for direction, she heated water for washing, found clean clothes, and prepared food while Cole rode out with Miguel and Tomás to see if there were other survivors. By the time he returned hours later with 2 more ragged refugees, Sophia had beds made up and soup ready. Over the next 3 days, Cole housed and fed the survivors, helped them get word to relatives, and gave them money for stage fare when they were ready to move on. He asked for nothing in return, just helped because he could. Watching him, Sophia felt something bloom in her chest, an emotion she had never allowed herself before. She was falling in love with Cole Donovan. The realization hit her one evening after the last survivor had left. She was washing dishes, and Cole came into the kitchen after seeing their guests off. He looked tired but satisfied, and he smiled at her with such warmth that her heart did a strange flutter in her chest. "Thank you for all your help these past few days," he said. "I could not have managed without you." "You would have found a way," Sophia said, but she was pleased. "You always do." "Maybe, but it would not have been done half so well or with half so much kindness." He moved closer, taking up a towel to dry the dishes she was washing. They worked in companionable silence for a while before he spoke again. "You were different with those folks, more open, more confident. It suited you." "I learned from watching you," she admitted. "The way you help people, no questions asked, no judgment passed." "It is not as hard as I thought it would be, showing compassion. It actually feels good." "That is because you have a good heart, Sophia. You always did. You just needed someone to show you it was safe to let it out." Sophia set down the plate she was washing and turned to face him. They were close in the small space of the kitchen, and she could see the exact color of his eyes, gray with flecks of blue like storm clouds with bits of sky showing through. She could smell the clean scent of him, soap and leather and something that was just coal. "You did that," she said softly. "You showed me it was safe. You showed me what it meant to trust someone, to rely on someone. You showed me that not everyone leaves or disappoints or takes more than they give." Cole set down the towel, his full attention on her. "Sophia, I need to tell you something," she said, her heart pounding. "And I need you to let me say it all before you respond, because if I do not say it now, I might lose my courage." "All right," he said quietly. "When you found me in Pino's Altos, I was barely surviving. I was going through the motions of living, but I was not really alive. Do you understand? I was just existing, waiting for the next bad thing to happen, because in my experience, bad things were all there were." She took a breath, steadying herself. "You changed that. Every day you showed me something different. You showed me what it means to be treated with respect and dignity. You showed me what compassion looks like in action, not just words. You showed me that there are good people in this world, people who give without expecting anything back, people who see you as a person and not just something to be used." Cole's expression was intense, focused entirely on her, and she felt herself trembling but pushed on. "I confessed to you once that I had never known compassion, and that was true. But you showed me compassion in every gesture, every word, every action, until I could not help but understand what it really means. And somewhere along the way, while you were teaching me about compassion and trust and goodness, I fell in love with you." The words hung in the air between them, and Sophia felt exposed and terrified and exhilarated all at once. Cole's eyes had widened, and she saw surprise there, but also something else, something that looked like wonder. "I know I have no right," she continued quickly. You gave me a job and a home, and that should be enough. It is more than enough. But I cannot keep pretending I do not feel this way. It is in everything I do, every meal I cook, every shirt I mend, every moment I spend in your company. I love you, Cole. I love your kindness and your strength and the way you see the best in people even when they cannot see it themselves. I love how you work with your hands and how you laugh at Tomas's jokes and how you play that fiddle even though you are terrible at it. A surprised laugh escaped Cole at that, and encouraged, Sophia kept going. I love that you never pushed me, never demanded more than I was ready to give, even though I know I have been difficult and suspicious. I love that you are patient and gentle and strong enough to be soft. I love everything about you, and I needed you to know that, even if you do not feel the same way. Even if this changes things between us. I just needed you to know. She ran out of words and stood there, breathless and terrified, waiting for his response. Cole looked at her for a long moment, his expression complex and unreadable, and Sophia's heart began to sink. She had ruined it. She had taken the best thing in her life and ruined it by wanting more than she deserved. Then Cole reached out and cupped her face in his hands, and the tenderness in his touch made her eyes sting with tears. Sophia, he said, his voice rough with emotion. I have been in love with you since the day I saw you stand up behind that water trough with fire in your eyes, and told 3 armed men you would not be cowed. I have been in love with you through every meal, every conversation, every moment of watching you bloom like a flower finally getting enough sun. I have been in love with you and trying so hard not to show it, because I did not want to make you feel pressured or obligated or anything other than free to make your own choice. Sophia's breath caught. You love me. I love you, he confirmed, his thumbs brushing away the tears that had started to fall. I love your strength and your resilience and the way you have opened yourself up to trust again, despite every reason not to. I love your laugh when I can coax it out of you, and your fierce intelligence, and the way you care for everyone on this ranch like they are your family. I love who you are and who you are becoming. I love you, Sophia Winters, with everything I have. And then he kissed her, and it was nothing like Sophia had imagined a kiss would be. It was gentle and reverent, as though she were something precious, and it tasted like possibility and promise and all the good things she had never let herself believe in. When they finally pulled apart, both breathing hard, Sophia laughed and it came out bright and genuine. I cannot believe this is real. It is real, Cole promised, pulling her close. It is real and you deserve it, and we are going to build something beautiful together. I do not know how to do this, she admitted, her face pressed against his chest. I have never been in love before. I do not know the rules. There are no rules, Cole said, echoing what he had told her months ago. We make it up as we go. We talk to each other, we are honest with each other, we treat each other with compassion and respect. That is all we need. Sophia looked up at him, this man who had changed her entire world. Show me. Teach me how to love someone the way you do. We will teach each other, he said, and kissed her again. The days that followed were a revelation for Sophia. She and Cole navigated their new relationship with the same patience and care they had built into their friendship. They held hands during evening walks, stole kisses in the kitchen, and spent long nights on the porch talking about everything and nothing. Cole courted her properly, as if she were a fine lady and not a former saloon cleaner with a drunk for a father. He brought her gifts, small things that showed he paid attention to what she liked. A blue ribbon that matched her eyes, a book of poetry, a music box he found in Santa Fe that played a sweet, lilting melody. In turn, Sophia learned to show affection, small touches and smiles that came easier with practice. She learned that Cole loved it when she sang while cooking, that he preferred strong coffee in the morning, that he had a ticklish spot just below his ribs. She learned the feel of his hand in hers, the sound of his heartbeat when she rested her head on his chest, the way his eyes darkened when he looked at her with desire he was carefully keeping in check. He never pushed her for more than she was ready to give. Even when their kisses grew heated and urgent, he always pulled back, always gave her the choice to continue or stop. This restraint, this respect for her boundaries, made her love him even more. "I want to marry you," Cole said one November evening as they sat by the fire. "But I want you to be sure. I want you to know without any doubt that this is what you want." Sophia turned to him, seeing the vulnerability in his face, the fear that she might say no. "I have never been more sure of anything. Yes, Cole. Yes, I will marry you." His smile was brilliant, and he pulled a ring from his pocket, a simple gold band set with a small sapphire. "This was my mother's," he said. "If you do not like it, we can get something else." "It is perfect," Sophia said, her voice choked with emotion as he slipped it onto her finger. "Everything about this is perfect." They were married 2 weeks later in a small ceremony in Pinos Altos, with Miguel, Tomás, and Mrs. Chen as witnesses. Sophia wore a simple dress she had sewn herself from fabric Cole had bought in Santa Fe, and Cole wore his best suit, and neither of them could stop smiling throughout the brief ceremony. That night, in the bedroom they now shared, Cole made love to Sophia with the same patience and gentleness he had shown in everything else. He took his time, learning what she liked, showing her pleasure she had never imagined possible, treating her body like something sacred. And when they finally joined together, Sophia felt a completeness she had never known, as though a piece of herself she had not known was missing had finally slotted into place. Afterward, lying in Cole's arms in the darkness, she thought about how far she had come. 6 months ago, she had been a woman who believed she was unworthy of love, incapable of trust, destined for a hard and lonely life. Now she was a wife, a partner, a woman who was loved and who loved in return. The transformation seemed impossible, like something from a fairy tale rather than real life. "What are you thinking?" Cole asked, his hand tracing lazy patterns on her shoulder. "I am thinking about compassion," Sophia said. "How you told me once that compassion was a gift to be passed forward." "I want to do that, Cole. I want this ranch to be a place where people can find the same kindness you showed me." "It already is," he said. "Look at what you did for Lily and the others. Look at how you treat Miguel and Tomás and Mrs. Chen. You already know how to give compassion, Sophia." "You learned it by receiving it." "I learned it from you," she corrected. "Everything good in me I learned from watching you." "That is not true. The good was always in you. I just helped you feel safe enough to let it show." He kissed her forehead. "But I like your idea. We can do more, help more people, build something that lasts beyond us." They talked late into the night, planning and dreaming, two people who had found each other against all odds, building a vision of the future together. And when they finally fell asleep, tangled in each other's arms, Sophia had never felt safer or more at peace. The winter that followed was hard, as winters in New Mexico territory often were, but the ranch survived and even thrived. Cole and Sophia worked side by side, partners in everything. When a blizzard stranded a family traveling through, they took them in without hesitation. When Mrs. Chen grew too ill to live alone, they moved her into the main house, and Sophia nursed her back to health. Spring came with new calves and new hope, and Sophia discovered she was pregnant. The news filled them both with joy tempered by worry, as childbirth was dangerous, and Sophia had no experience with such things. But Mrs. Chen knew about delivering babies, and when the time came in late autumn of 1884, She guided Sophia through the birth of a healthy baby boy with Cole's gray eyes and Sophia's determined chin. They named him James, after Cole's father, and he became the center of their world. Sophia marveled at the fierce love she felt for this tiny person, a love that made her understand her own mother better. She would do anything for James, sacrifice anything, and knowing that made her forgive her mother for not having the strength to escape the life that had killed her. 2 years later, a daughter arrived whom they named Caroline. She had Sophia's blue eyes and Cole's smile, and James adored his baby sister with fierce protectiveness. The house was full of noise and laughter and the beautiful chaos of family life, and Sophia often had to stop and remind herself this was really her life now. The ranch continued to grow. Cole bought more land, hired more hands, built up the cattle operation into something substantial. But no matter how busy they became, he and Sophia always made time for each other and for the mission they had set themselves, to make the Triple D a place of compassion. They hired people others would not give a chance. A former convict who had served his time and wanted to go straight. A widow with 3 children who needed work. A young Apache man named Nahilze who had been displaced by the wars and government policies. Each person who came to the Triple D found the same thing Sophia had found: fair treatment, honest wages, and a community that cared about their well-being. Word spread, and the ranch became known as a place where someone down on their luck could find a fresh start. Not everyone who came stayed, but those who did became part of something larger than themselves, a found family built on mutual respect and compassion. One day in the spring of 1888, Sophia was in the garden with 5-year-old Caroline when a woman rode up to the house. She was dusty and tired, with a black eye and split lip, riding a horse that looked as worn out as she did. Sophia recognized the look in her eyes immediately, the same desperate fear she had seen in her own mirror years ago. "Can I help you?" Sophia asked, standing and brushing dirt from her skirt. "I am looking for the Triple D Ranch," the woman said. "They told me in town that the people here might give me work, no questions asked. I can clean, cook, sew. I am a hard worker, I promise. I just need somewhere safe to stay for a while." Sophia smiled, remembering another desperate woman who had needed the same thing. "You found it. Come inside and let me fix you something to eat, and we can talk." She led the woman inside, settled her at the kitchen table with food and water, and let her tell her story in her own time. She had been married to a cruel man, had finally found the courage to leave, and needed somewhere to rebuild her life. It was a familiar story, and Sophia's heart ached with recognition. When Cole came in later, Sophia introduced him to their guest, and he accepted her presence with the same easy hospitality he had shown Sophia all those years ago. They gave her a room, work in the house, and most importantly, the respect of not prying into what she was not ready to share. Over dinner that night, with James and Caroline chattering about their day, and the new woman, whose name was Ruth, looking overwhelmed by the normalcy of it all, Sophia caught Cole's eye across the table. He smiled at her, that warm smile that still made her heart flutter even after years of marriage, and she felt a surge of love so strong it almost took her breath away. This life they had built was not perfect. There were hard days, struggles, moments of worry and fear. The work was never ending, and the challenges of running a ranch kept them constantly on their toes. But it was good. It was so incredibly good. After the children were in bed and Ruth had retired to her room, Cole and Sophia sat on the porch in their usual spots, hands intertwined. The stars were brilliant overhead, and the air smelled of spring growth and possibility. "You ever think about that day in Pino's Altos?" Sophia asked. "What made you stop?" There must have been dozens of people in town that day. Why did you help me? Cole considered the question. I suppose because you looked like you were ready to fight back even knowing you would lose. There was something in your eyes, a spark that refused to be extinguished no matter how hard life had tried. I saw that spark and thought it deserved a chance to become a flame. You gave me that chance, Sophia said. You gave me everything. A home, a family, a life worth living. You taught me what compassion really means. We taught each other, Cole corrected gently. You think I have not changed too? I was lonely before you came, Sophia. I had land and money and a good life, but I was missing the most important part, someone to share it with. You gave me that. You gave me love and partnership and a family. You made this house a home. I love you, Sophia said, the words coming easily now after years of practice. I love you more than I knew it was possible to love someone. I love you too, Cole said, pulling her close. And I am grateful every day that I happened to be in Pino's Altos that afternoon. Best decision I ever made stepping into that street. They sat in comfortable silence for a while, and Sophia thought about compassion, about how receiving it had changed her life, about how giving it had completed her transformation. She thought about Ruth upstairs, getting her first good night's sleep in who knew how long, about the safe place she and Cole had built where people could heal and grow. I used to think I was broken, Sophia said quietly. I used to think my childhood had damaged me beyond repair, that I would never be able to trust or love or be truly happy. And now, Cole asked, now I know I was never broken. I was just waiting for the right person to show me I was whole all along. She looked at him, this man who had changed everything. You did that. Your compassion healed wounds I did not even know I had. You did the same for me, Cole said. I was so focused on helping others that I forgot I needed help too. I needed someone to remind me that I deserved happiness, that I did not have to carry everything alone. You gave me that. As the years continued to pass, the Triple D Ranch became something of a legend in the territory. It was the place you went when you had nowhere else to turn, when you needed a second chance or a fresh start. Cole and Sophia ran it together, equal partners in every way, making decisions jointly and supporting each other through all of life's ups and downs. Their family grew. Another son arrived in 1890, whom they named Michael. Then twin girls in 1893, Elizabeth and Emily. The house was full to bursting with children and laughter and love. Sophia often marveled at the noise and chaos, remembering the silent, lonely woman she had been before Cole found her. The children grew up learning their parents' values, watching how Cole and Sophia treated everyone with dignity and fairness. They helped in the house and around the ranch, learning responsibility and the value of hard work. But more importantly, they learned compassion, seeing it modeled every day in how their parents dealt with the people who came to the Triple D seeking help. James, the oldest, became particularly invested in the ranch's mission. At 15, he would talk for hours with Cole about how they could do more, help more people. He had his father's kind heart and his mother's determination, and Sophia knew the ranch would be in good hands when the time came. One evening in 1898, when Sophia was 47 and Cole was 55, they sat on the porch after a long day. The children were all in bed, the ranch was quiet, and they had a rare moment of peace. "You ever regret it?" Sophia asked. "Not the marriage or the children, but everything that came with it. All the people we have helped over the years, all the work and worry and expense. Do you ever wish you had kept your life simpler?" Cole looked at her with surprise. "Not for a single second. This life, this full, complicated, beautiful life, is exactly what I wanted even when I did not know I wanted it. Every person we have helped, Every second chance we have given has made this place what it is, has made us what we are. I would not change a thing." "Neither would I," Sophia said, smiling. "I was just checking. What brought this on? Ruth came to see me today. She is getting married to that nice man from town, the school teacher. She wanted to thank us for taking her in all those years ago, said we saved her life." Sophia paused, emotion making her voice thick. "She called us angels, Cole, said we were instruments of God's compassion." "We are just people trying to do right," Cole said. "Maybe that is what angels are," Sophia suggested. "Just ordinary people who choose to show compassion when they have every reason not to." Cole pulled her close, and they sat together watching the stars emerge one by one in the darkening sky. Sophia thought about the long journey from that desperate day in Pino's Altos to this moment of peace and contentment. It had not been easy. There had been challenges and setbacks, times of fear and uncertainty. But every step had been worth it to arrive here, at this life she had built with the man she loved. "Thank you," she said suddenly. "For what?" "For seeing me. For seeing past the dirt and desperation to the person underneath. For giving me a chance when you had no reason to. For teaching me what compassion looks like. For loving me." She looked up at him, this man who had given her everything. "Thank you for everything, Cole." He kissed her softly. "Thank you for taking the chance, for trusting me when trust had failed you before, for building this life with me, for showing our children what it means to love and be loved. Thank you for being exactly who you are." As they sat together in the gathering darkness, Sophia felt complete. She had come so far from the woman who had confessed she had never known compassion. Now she lived it every day, giving and receiving it in equal measure. The ranch that Cole had started had become their shared mission, a place where compassion was the foundation of everything they did. The years continued their steady march, bringing changes and challenges but also joys. James took over more of the ranch operations as Cole aged, working alongside his father with the same dedication and kindness. Caroline became a teacher, opening a small school on the ranch property for the children of the workers and nearby families. Michael became a doctor, drawn to healing after watching his mother care for the sick and injured who came to the ranch. The twins, Elizabeth and Emily, were still figuring out their paths, but they had time. Cole's hair had gone gray, and lines had deepened around his eyes, but to Sophia, he was as handsome as the day she had first seen him ride into Pino's Altos. Her own face showed the years too, but she wore them proudly, each line a story of a life well lived. On their 20th wedding anniversary in 1904, Cole took Sophia back to Pino's Altos. The town had grown over the years, becoming more civilized, but the street where they had first met was largely unchanged. They stood on that street, and Sophia looked at the water trough she had hidden behind so many years ago. "I was so scared that day," she said. "I thought my life was over." "It was just beginning," Cole said, taking her hand. "We both were just beginning." "I love you," Sophia said, the same words she had said 1,000 times before, and they felt as fresh and true as the first time she had spoken them. "I will love you until my last breath and beyond." "And I love you," Cole said. "You are the best part of my life, Sophia. Everything good in it traces back to you." They stood together in that dusty street, two people who had found each other against all odds and built something beautiful from that chance meeting. Around them, the town went about its business, people living their lives, and none of them knew they were witnessing something sacred. A love story that had transformed two people and, through them, touched dozens of other lives. As they rode back to the ranch together, Sophia thought about compassion one more time. She had learned its power, learned how it could heal wounds and change lives. She had learned that compassion was not weakness but the truest strength, the foundation on which everything good could be built. And she had learned it from a man who showed compassion in every gesture, every word, every action. The Triple D Ranch spread out before them as they crested the final hill, the house warm with lamplight, smoke rising from the chimney, the barns and outbuildings neat and well-maintained. This was home, this place they had built together. This was the life they had created from nothing but determination and compassion and love. Cole helped her down from her horse, and they walked hand in hand into the house where their children waited with a celebration dinner. The table was crowded with family, including Miguel and Tomás, Mrs. Chen, and several of the ranch hands who had become like family over the years. It was loud and chaotic and absolutely perfect. During dinner, James stood and raised his glass. "To my parents," he said, "who taught us that the measure of a person is not what they have but what they give. Who showed us that compassion is the greatest gift we can offer another person. Who built this ranch into more than just a business but a refuge for anyone who needs it. Thank you for everything you are and everything you have taught us." "Hear, hear." The others chorused, raising their glasses. Sophia looked around the table at all these faces, these people who were family by blood or by choice, and felt her heart swell with gratitude. This was what compassion had built. This was what happened when you treated people with dignity and fairness, when you helped without expecting anything in return, when you showed kindness in every gesture. "I want to say something too," Sophia said, standing. 20 years ago, I confessed to Cole that I had never known compassion. I had lived my whole life without understanding what it really meant to care for someone without wanting something back. Cole changed that. He showed me compassion in every gesture, every day, until I could not help but understand it. And understanding it changed me. It changed everything. She looked at Cole, her husband, her partner, the love of her life. "You saved me in every way a person can be saved. You gave me a home, a family, a purpose, and most of all, you gave me yourself. Everything good in my life comes from that one act of compassion on a dusty street in Pinos Altos. And I want all of you to know that same compassion built this ranch, this family, this life we all share. It is our foundation and our future." She raised her glass. "To compassion and to the man who taught me what it means. I love you, Cole Donovan, with everything I am." "To compassion," everyone echoed, and Cole stood to kiss her as their children cheered and laughed. Later that night, after everyone had gone to bed and the house was quiet, Cole and Sophia lay together in their room, windows open to let in the cool night air. They talked about the evening, about how the children had grown, about the ranch and its future. And then, in the comfortable silence that had grown between them over 2 decades of marriage, they simply held each other. "Are you happy?" Cole asked softly. "More than I ever thought possible," Sophia answered honestly. "Are you completely, absolutely, in every possible way?" He tightened his arms around her. "Thank you for saying yes all those years ago. Thank you for taking a chance on me, on us." "Thank you for asking," Sophia said. "Thank you for stepping into that street and changing my life." They fell asleep like that, wrapped in each other's arms. Two people who had found salvation in compassion and built a love that would endure beyond their lifetimes in the legacy they left behind. The years that followed were peaceful ones. Cole and Sophia grew old together, watching their children build lives of their own. James took over the ranch fully, running it with the same principles his parents had established. Caroline's school flourished. Michael set up a practice in Pinos Altos, treating everyone regardless of their ability to pay. Elizabeth became a writer, documenting the history of the ranch and the people whose lives had been changed there. Emily married a rancher from a neighboring property and started her own family. Grandchildren arrived, filling the house once more with young voices and laughter. Sophia delighted in spoiling them, in telling them stories of the old days, in watching them grow up free from the fears and hardships that had marked her own childhood. Cole's health began to fail when he was in his 70s. Sophia nursed him with the same compassion he had always shown others, staying by his side through the difficult days. Even in illness, he was kind, thanking her for every small service, telling her he loved her multiple times a day, worried that he might not have the chance to say it again. One evening in early summer of 1912, when Cole was 79 and Sophia was 71, they sat on their beloved porch watching the sunset. Cole's breathing was labored, and Sophia knew their time together was drawing to a close. The thought broke her heart, but she was grateful for every year, every day, every moment they had shared. "I am not afraid," Cole said quietly. "I have lived a good life, a full life. I have loved and been loved. I have helped people and built something that will last beyond me. I have no regrets." "Neither do I," Sophia said, tears streaming down her face. "Except that I want more time with you. I will always want more time." "We have had more than most people get," Cole said. "We have had 34 years of marriage and 28 years before that of friendship. That is more than enough time for a love like ours to grow into something beautiful." "It is not enough," Sophia insisted. "It will never be enough." Cole squeezed her hand weakly. "Then take comfort in this. Every moment we had was filled with love. We did not waste a single day. We built something good together, something that will help people long after we are both gone. Our children and grandchildren will carry on what we started. That is immortality, Sophia. That is how we live forever." He was right, of course. He was always right about things like this. Sophia leaned in and kissed him gently. "I love you, Cole Donovan. You are the best thing that ever happened to me. And you are mine," he whispered. "My Sophia, my love, my heart." He died that night, peacefully in his sleep, with Sophia holding his hand. She sat with him until morning, saying her goodbyes to the man who had changed her life so completely. She grieved deeply, but there was peace in her grief because she knew he had been right. They had built something beautiful together, and that would endure. Sophia lived another 8 years after Cole's death, staying active in the ranch and the family. She watched more grandchildren arrive, saw James's son begin to learn the ranch business, continued to help people who came to the Triple D seeking refuge. She told stories about Cole to anyone who would listen, keeping his memory alive and ensuring that his legacy of compassion would continue. On her 80th birthday in 1920, surrounded by 3 generations of family, Sophia looked around at all the lives that had been touched by the compassion one man had shown a desperate woman on a street in Pinos Altos so many decades ago. She saw it echoing through her children and grandchildren, saw it in the way they treated others, in the values they held dear. That night, she sat on the porch in her usual spot, the chair beside her empty but not lonely. She could feel Cole's presence, could almost hear his voice in the wind, could almost feel his hand in hers. And she smiled, content in the knowledge that what they had built together would last long after she was gone. Sophia Winters Donovan died peacefully in her sleep a few months later, on a cool autumn evening much like the one when she had first confessed her love to Cole. She was buried beside him on a hill overlooking the ranch, and her funeral was attended by hundreds of people whose lives had been touched by her kindness. The Triple D Ranch continued, passed down through generations, always maintaining the founding principle that compassion was the foundation of everything good. The story of Cole and Sophia became legend, told and retold, inspiring others to show kindness without expecting anything in return. And in the end, That was their legacy. A love born from compassion, nurtured by respect and trust, that changed not just two lives but countless others. A love that proved that one act of kindness could ripple outward infinitely, touching hearts and changing destinies. A love that showed that even someone who had never known compassion could learn to embody it so completely that it became their defining characteristic. It was a love story for the ages, a testament to the transformative power of compassion, and a reminder that sometimes the greatest adventures begin when one person sees another's need and simply chooses to help. The rancher who showed compassion in every gesture, and the woman who confessed she had never known it, had found each other, and in finding each other, had discovered the truest meaning of love.